By the way, today we will have a tutorial which we were going to read the second articles from beginning, and Group A will stay after. So people from Group A should prepare for the quiz and all that. And please take out the handout or have that ready. The handouts on Confucianism and Chinese philosophy. Okay. Last time we have ended with existentialism. Okay. Last time we have ended with existentialism. So it would be nice that we can pick up the discussion from Confucianism, because Confucianism has actually has a lot commonality with existentialism. Both Confucianism, at least the Confucianism that starts with Kongzi, both Confucianism and existentialism believes that values has to be subjective. Value has to be something that comes directly from the life, from the spirit of the individual. Values cannot be something totally objective. Value cannot be something that is given by the society or by the traditions or by God or by anyone that is beside yourself. You have to generate your own values. Value exists in one's perceptions, okay, instead of something that is totally objective out there in the world. Using Mencius or Mengzi's terminology, values is internal, okay? His rival, Gaozi, was wrong by saying that value or justice is something that is external. Values is always exists as an internal thing, okay? It's not something external. So looking for values or looking for the standards of values or criteria of values from anything outside of a human being, say for example the society, would be misplacing, would be a mistake, okay? Would be a mistake. So let's begin with the discussion on Kongzi here. First of all, the first page of the handouts I have given you, I have given you the background on the development of the pre-Qing Chinese philosophy, which is something that I would not go into details today. All I need to say to you is just a little background. Okay, all I need to draw your attention to is that the time that Kongzi and Laozi was a time that the traditional value system has collapsed. Okay, it's a time very much like ours today. Okay, in ancient China, the traditional value system is what we call Zhou or Zhou Lai. Zhou, I don't want to get into the details of Zhou. Okay, I have all that on your handouts. If you are interested, you can go home and take a look at that. All I need to say is, by Zhou, he defines everyone's values and meaning by one's role in a society. Say, for example, you are the king or you are a feudal lord. Then what makes you great or what makes you valuable is your duty to your people or your duty to your nations. Okay? If you have fulfilled your duty to the nation and to your people, well, then you are a noble person, then you are a nobleman, then you are a 君子, okay? So whether or not you exist in a meaningful way or whether or not you exist in a valuable way depends on whether or not you have fulfilled your duty of your role in the society. And your role in the society is defined by your relationship to other people in the society. That means if you do not have a nation, if you do not belong to a family, then you have no values. Because your values depends on who you are in the society. No one, it's like what Heidegger has said, is thrown to the world. Heidegger, remember last time we talked about Heidegger, the existentialist philosopher? He said that there is a thrownness in us human beings. We are somehow being thrown to the world, which we do not know why we were here. But this doesn't happen to the ancient Chinese people. The ancient Chinese people are not born as just something abstract. Chinese people are born in a context. Okay? Chinese people are born in a context of family and nations. You are born, no one is born out of a nation or out of a family. If you were born out of a nation and out of a family, then you have no values. You are a dog with no home. 喪家之犬. Okay? So those will be rubbish. So it is kind of weird that how Chinese people, deplore other people, how Chinese people scold other people by saying things that Western people would not understand. Say, for example, especially in Cantonese, 冚家產. How do you translate 冚家產 in English? Try translating 冚家產 in English. You are the sole survivor of your family. Okay? Everybody else died in your family. You are the only one who survived. Then why is that derogatory? Why is that something that's bad about me? Okay? If you say that to a Westerner, say American, they will say, "Wow, that's damn lucky. Everybody else died and I survived. Why is that something against me? Why is that making me look bad? Why is that something that has anything to do with my existence? Anything have to do with the value of my existence?" You will only understand that if you put that within the Chinese traditional context. That is, if you have no family, you are rubbish. If you have no family, we have no way to measure your achievement. We have no way to measure your value, your meaning. Okay? The only way to measure whether or not you are a good person, whether or not you are a valuable person, whether or not you are noble, it depends on what role you play in your society and in your family, and whether or not you play it well. If we have no such background, we don't know how to evaluate it. Your evaluation would be impossible. Okay? So 冚家產 means rubbish. It's not just saying a fact that you have no family. Having no family means that there's no way for anyone to evaluate the value of your existence. Okay? And so that is bad. Actually, I've asked some of your fellow students who come from the northern part of China. They said that actually it's not just the southern Chinese has this kind of saying, 冚家產, that sort of thing. The northerner has a similar saying as well, but she dared not to tell me. But anyway, we'll figure that out later. But anyway, this is kind of common things in the Chinese culture. Now, so if that's the case, 孔子and 孟子 and also Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher at the time, were the time where they faced a lot of people who has just lost their home due to war, due to all sorts of political turmoil. They just lost their nation, they just lost their home, and they all of a sudden lost their identity as a noble person. They lost their identity as and their role in the nation and the family. All of a sudden, they become 冚家產. Okay, it's a nation where you have 冚家產 everywhere. Now, facing that, how are you going to rectify that? How are you going to restructure? How are you going to make yourself valuable again without appealing to a social system, without appealing to anything that is outside of you? And so you can generate your own value and your own meaning of existence from within. Is the crucial philosophical reflections that 孔子and 孟子and Lao Tzu will have to do at the time. Okay, now that's the background. That's the background. Okay, so if you are interested in the history and stuff, you may take a look at the first page. But all I need to say was what I've just said earlier. Okay, now let's take a look at the teaching of 孔子or Confucius. Okay, 孔子 is the transliterations of course 孔子. Okay. 係譯音，孔子係譯音 ，okay, transliterations. But Confucius is the Latinizations of 孔子, okay, which is done in the 16th century by the Jesuit. In nowadays academia, usually people would use both of them. The Catholic Church would still insisted to use Confucius, but most of the other sinologists would use 孔子 instead of Confucius. You can use either one. I use them interchangeably, so just get used to that. Okay, let me just read from a little that I have just written down here, okay? Now, first of all, Confucianism has at least one thing in common with the 19th century existential German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche's thought, is that one has to actualize one's potential in order to lead a meaningful life. Now, this thesis is hardly debatable. Now, this is something that went over and over again. What makes your life valuable? We don't know. We might not know, but there is one necessary condition. It might not be sufficient, but it is necessary that the values that you are trying to actualize is something that you yourself value. It's not just something that other people tells you that is valuable, right? Okay. Say for example, the other people tells you that raising a family, getting a good job is valuable, but you yourself do not think so. Say for example, you yourself only thinks that the only thing that's valuable is have a good sleep whenever I want to. Okay, whether or not I can raise a family is really secondary. Okay, the only reasons I'm going to raise a family and all that is to get everybody off my back so that I can sleep. Okay, it's to get my mother off my back. It's to get my parents off my back. It's to get my friends and other people off my back so that I can sleep. Okay. Now, if that is the case, raising a family would not be truly valuable to you, but having a good night's sleep every night would truly be. So something that you yourself have to, find it valuable. Okay, that is the what should I say? The necessary condition, not sufficient maybe. Something that you yourself find valuable might not be truly valuable, but something that even if it is objectively valuable, but it is not subjectively valuable to you, then it's still meaningless, right? So subjectively find something valuable is the necessary conditions, but not necessarily the what do you call it? It's necessary but not sufficient conditions of a meaningful of a values. Okay. Now Nietzsche and Confucius agree on this point. Okay, they both agree on this point. Now, what is the difference between them? However, Nietzsche's ways of life is way too difficult to actualize. Not only because most of us are coward in the Nietzschean sense, but also because sometimes we don't feel right about doing just that. It is the problem of conflicting potentials. And here is where Confucianism has a bit more to say. Now, this I need to have a little more explanations. For Nietzsche would say that what makes your life valuable? Actualize your potentials. Actualize something that you want to do. Actualize something that you are born with. That you have the potentials. You have the innate inclinations or interest in doing. Say for example, you have this innate inclinations to do literatures, okay, to write literatures, to write poem, okay. You have these inclinations. You are just a poetic person, okay. You find it natural for you to do it, and you do it well, okay. And when by doing that, you have these satisfactions. So you value that a lot. But it's not very marketable. Being a poet in nowadays society, okay. Not too many poets can write poetry for a living, okay. So then you will have to take up other jobs, do things that you do not find interesting, do things that is marketable, do things that is that you can sell for a living. Now, in the process of doing so, Nietzsche would say, then you are spending too much of your time. You would be spending too much of the time doing things that you do not find valuable. And sometimes people actually spend all their times doing things that he himself do not find valuable. So, in order to make your life valuable, you will have to actualize your own potentials most of the time. Even that is something that is not approved by the society or approved by your environment, by the people around you. The only reasons that you are not doing that is because you are a coward. You do not have the courage to do that. You just want to hide behind the mask. It says everybody's going to college, so I go to college. Everybody is studying something that is marketable. Well, you are in engineering, I'm in physical therapies or whatever, okay? And you do things that is marketable, or like anybody else. Only then you are not stand out and therefore not exist. Remember, you are just one of the masses. And by not existing, by merging with the mass, you are safe. You wouldn't be pinpoint. Okay? You are safe. And you do things that going along with everybody else would be a safer way to lead your life. Okay? And choose safety over actualizations of your potentials is an expression, it's a sign of coward. Okay, you do not have the courage. You just want to be safe. You just want to be safe. I can't find another word for that. You just want to be safe, and this is what Nietzsche called coward. Now then you say, well, then what should I do? Desert whatever the society asks you to do. Desert whatever you find safe. Do what you yourself think is good for you. Do what you yourself think is your born potential. Okay? Now, Nietzsche has made an analogy. He said that if you are born an acorn, that is the seed of an oak tree, okay? If you are born an acorn and die an acorn, which you have lived your whole life without becoming a tree, you were born a seed and die a seed, then you have not actualized your potentials. Then your existence is meaningless. You might just as well not exist at all. Okay? So, in order for your existence to have some meaning or values, you have to actualize your potential as a tree. You have to desert yourself. You have to deny yourself as an acorn. You cease to be an acorn. You no longer become is an acorn and turn yourself into a tree. This is going beyond oneself. Of course, staying within yourself as in your safety zone is always comfortable. But you will always be what you are now. You will never become what you are meant to be. And this is why you have to go beyond yourself. And Nietzsche called this man who has courage to go beyond oneself the Uberman, or the Superman. Okay, the Superman. Oh, this. The Uber Mansion. Or Superman. Uber, over. Mansion, man. Uber mansion means someone that go over. Go over what? Go beyond oneself. Go beyond oneself. So one would only lead a meaningful life if one becomes a Superman. Okay, not one who has superpower, okay, but one who can actually go beyond oneself and actualize one's potentials, okay, being something that you were meant to be, okay. That is to actualize something that you long to do as a person, okay. Say for example, you want to be a poet, be a poet. You want to be a skier, be a skier, okay. But what if? Now the problem here is that what if the environment wouldn't allow me, okay? Say, for example, in Hong Kong, I cannot make money being a poet. I cannot survive being a poet. Then Nietzsche would say, hey, you can just do whatever, okay, to keep surviving, okay? Even if some of those might not be morally permissible in the society, okay? Not something that is morally acceptable in the society. Because morality for Nietzsche is something that those who has the will to power, those who are actually in control, like the noble persons or the government, they created morality to control those who wants to be safe. Okay, they lay down the moral ground so that you will follow these moral rules, and therefore listen to these people and be controlled by them. Okay, they ask you not to kill, not to rob, not to. They ask you to be nice to everybody else. They ask you to cooperate. Who benefit from them? Of course, those who are in control. Okay, so this is why the one who has the will to power instead of the will to enslave would be able to control others and actualize their own potentials. Those will be the well-to-do people. Those will be the people who are in power. But most of us would not be like that. Most of us will be afraid to actualize ourselves, would rather hide behind the masses and do whatever other people are doing. And this, according to Nietzsche, is something that most of us will lead most of us to a life that has no meaning at all. Okay? You are born an acorn and die an acorn. Now, so Nietzsche, so in Nietzsche's point of view, the only reason you are sitting here listening to me and trying to pass this course and get your degree is because you are a coward. You do not dare to spend your time doing things that you really find meaningful. Okay? Yeah. Maybe some of you get encouraged and will leave the classroom right now. Okay? I have never seen one of you done that. I have seen none of you done that in my whole career of teaching in Poly, and I have taught here for over 18 years. I have seen none of you. And Nietzsche has an explanation to that. Nietzsche said he has never seen a Superman in his life. The only Superman that he has read about was Jesus Christ. And he died on the cross already. Okay? He was the one who is trying to break away from the traditionals. He was the one who was trying to break from what other people think is the way to go and lay down new ground for other people. So he was the only one, and and Jesus was the only Christian, the only true Christian. Anyone after that is just following what is already set out for other people to follow. So a Superman will be one who wants to actualize their own potential instead of following rules, following the stated quo. Okay. Now, so we coward, okay, don't have the courage to actualize our potentials. It's sad, okay, it's sad. But again, if you really think about it, is it true? Is it real? Is it true to you? Is it true to you? The reasons that you do not dare to just storm out and do whatever you find meaningful at this moment is because you are a coward, or actually you have other considerations. Say, for example, you think other things are important as well. Okay? That means there are different potentials in you. You have the potential to be a poet, but you also have the potential to, say, become an accountant. I do not know any one of you have this natural tendency of wanting to become an accountant. But if you do, you may say, okay, I want to be an accountant so bad that it's my natural calling, it's my potential to be an accountant. This is why I come to PolyU and become an accountant. Okay, if you are that determined, then Nietzsche, of course, will say, applaud. He will applaud you and say, yeah, good job being a person with the will to power. You control your own life, okay? Okay, say other university has accepted you into medical school, into a business school and all that. But you don't want that. You want to be an accountant. So then you come to PolyU, you determined to become an accountant and come to PolyU. Even Harvard accepted you, you didn't want to go. Okay, Harvard, Yale accepted you, but you didn't go. Okay, you come to PolyU. Now, that is some self-determination, okay? Now, but most of us are not. Most of us are somehow being, put into these positions by the limitations we have in this society. But then, what I'm trying to say here is, we do not think we are coward. We do things that we have take into considerations, take all things into considerations, and find what we are doing now is the most appropriate, okay, decisions that we have made. Most of us will think that, right? Because we think we have responsibilities to fulfill. Like we have to, take care of our parents when they get old. So I do need a job now to, take care of them later. So this is something that you find valuable as well, from the bottom of your heart. Say, for example, it's not something that the society asks you to do. If that is the case, then we are faced with a dilemma. On the one hand, you want to be a skier or a poet. On the other hand, you want to take care of your family. Both coming out of you. Both something that you find valuable subjectively. Okay? Both you find valuable subjectively. And you can only do one of them. What should you do? What is more valuable? What is more fundamentally valuable? Now, this would be something that Nietzsche has difficult time, answering. Nietzsche is only saying that, Nietzsche is only pointing out that we need to actualize our own potential. We need to do things that we subjectively think is important and valuable. But he did not mention anything if there are two potentials that is conflicting. Okay, what should we do? What should we do? He say, for example, you want to be a skier. You want to win the Olympic in skiing. You want to enter the competitions of skiing of the next Winter Olympic game. So then you start, working really hard to fund yourself for a special training in Korea. So you work hard, you save the money for over 3 years. And finally you got the money, you got the funding you need to have this training. So you bought your air ticket, you were about to go to Korea, to South Korea to have your training. Just before you get on the plane, your mother tapped on your shoulder and said to you, "Hey kid, you know what? I just went to the doctor yesterday, and the doctor told me that I have cancer. I've only got 1 year to live." Okay, or 2 years. 2 years better. Okay, I've only got 2 years to live. Even with the chemo, I only got 2 years to live. I wish you can stay behind and stay beside me. If you leave now, this is it for us. Okay, it's goodbye forever. Okay, could you please stay? Your mother, okay, actually say it out loud, ask you to stay behind, to stay with her. What would you do? Okay, you want to stay because this is your mother. You want to stay with her and take care of her. But on the other hand, you want to, actualize your potentials as well. And both of these are coming out of you. Which one would you do? What would you do? Nietzsche would say, if taking care of your mother is some kind of moral code that your societies prescribed to you, that you need to follow, then of course, disregard your mother and just go your own way, okay? But that is only if it is something that is prescribed by the society. But what if it's not? What if something by all your heart you say, it is something that I want to do as well? Okay? Between the two, what should we do? Now, note that between these two, one of them is coming out of your own characters. This is you as a person like to ski. Okay? As this individual, you like to ski. But not every human being like to ski. It's not coming out of your human nature. It's coming out of your personal characteristic. Okay? But according to at least Confucius, he would believe that loving your mother or loving the one who loves you, okay, is something that comes out of human nature. If your value base is coming out of your human nature, it will always be there. Because you will always be a human, but you will not always be a person who would like to ski. Okay, you might like to ski when you were young, but when you grow older, skiing might not seem to be as valuable as when you were younger. But take a look at your childhood. You might find Lego very appealing when you were 4 or 5. You want that Lego car so bad that you beg your mother to buy it for you. Continuously for like 3 months, but your mother still refused to buy it for you. Only when you get an A in the dictation or whatever, and then she bought it for you, then you were so happy for like 3 months for getting that car. But you might not even know where that car is now. Okay, it's just gone. It's just gone. It's no longer something that you cherish. Okay, you may cherish it for some for some sentimental purposes, but you do not cherish it as a thing in itself, right? You grow out of it, so to speak. When people grow older, people change. When people grow older, when they have more experiences, they started to, their value system started to change. Whatever you find valuable, worth chasing after, they changed, okay? But if that values comes out of your human nature, if that demands come from your nature, then you will always be a human being. Then that demand will always be with you. Refuting that, denying that, will be a self-denial. It's the deepest form of self-denial. And this self-denial will cause us a deepest form of harm that can never be recovered. Okay, this is what the Confucius or Confucius would have said. Therefore, go by your human nature, not go by your characteristic. Okay, first of all, go by what you yourself think is important. Okay, this is the fundamental things. But then, between what you have, if something is coming out of your characters, coming out of your own interest as an individual, is conflicting with something that is coming out of your human nature, go by your human nature instead of going by your personal characteristic. Because your characteristics is contingent. It changes through times. Okay, you will never be the same. But if you are a human being, you will always be the same. You will have to, address your self-denial sooner or later. Okay? Now, this is the basic understanding of Confucius. So Confucius, basically, what he was trying to say is, be true to yourself. And the innermost self, the self that is the most fundamental self, is not the self that is constituted by the society. It's not the social self. It's not the self that you have your name on it. It's the self that is yourself as a human being. It's not the self as you as an individual. Do you see what I mean? Say, for example, you are married. You are born in Hong Kong 20 years ago, so you have the interest of nowadays Hong Kong youth. Okay, you like these what do you call that? The pop music. I don't know what you listen to now. Do you still listen to the Korean pop music? Is it still hot here in Hong Kong? I don't know. I don't know what you listen to now. I don't know what you listen to. Okay? I don't know what's hot nowadays. Okay, anything. But you value the things that the society has given you. Okay, you value the things that the society has given you as an individual, as a girl, as a person who lives in this society. Okay, but at the same time, you also has the values that coming out from you as a human being. That is transcultural. That is transnational. That is something that is, go beyond time. It's timeless. Okay. So what Confucius is trying to say is go by your eternal, necessary nature, not something that is contingent. It's both coming out of you, but something is contingent. It changes, but something is always there. Go by the eternal nature of you, of yourself. That is what makes your life meaningful. Okay? So in that case, the meaning of life is not to set some kind of goal in the future. The meaning of life would be responding to your human nature every second of your existence. See what I mean here? If what you as a human being ask you yourself to do is important to you, and you respond to that every second of your existence, then every second of your existence, you will be doing things that you find important as a human. If you are doing things that you find important as a human every second of your existence, then how would your existence be meaningless? Do you see what I mean here? This is basically what Confucius has in mind. If you are responding to your own human nature every second, every moment of your life, and what you are as a human, and what your human nature asks you to do is what you think the most important things in life. It's not something coming from outside, it's something coming from inside. It's something that you yourself find most important, not as a particular individual, but as a human. If you are doing that every second of your life, how could your life not be meaningful? So, where is your guidance to lead a meaningful life? Not something in the future. It's something right now, here. Right this moment, the present. It's the present response of your human natures to your environment. If the present, that is, you need to let your human nature to respond to your environment naturally, and then respond to it. Okay. Now, using Mencius' most famous, example, when you see a little kid about to fall into a well, how would you respond to that? Of course, you'll be shocked. You will have these feelings of benevolence. You will have these. You find it unbearable to see this kid falling into a well, because falling into a well might kill them. Okay, so Mencius will say that this response is your response as a human. It's not your response as a calculating individual. You are not trying to. The reasons that you have this feeling that you don't want this child to fall into the well. The reasons that you have this feeling, this moral response, it's not because you're trying to make friends with the kid's parents. It's not because you're trying to build a reputation of being a nice person amongst your neighbors. It's not all these calculating things. It's something that is just natural. It's just like finding a color. It's just like perceiving color. You find that cruel. Okay? You find that incident cruel. As if you find that bag red. There is no calculation. There is no deliberation. There is nothing that I have to go through my mind. I do not have to process anything. It's just like a perception. You see the bag, you see the color, right? You see the bag, you see the color. It's red. Okay? Why do I call it red? Because I see red. Why do I call this act a cruel act? Because I see cruelty here. I perceive cruelty. Okay? Now, so what Confucius is saying here is that our nature as a moral being is something that we should be responding to every second of our life. Only because that is the things that we as a human being find most valuable, find most meaningful, find most important. Okay? So if we are responding to our moral intuition, okay, this is the word, the moral intuition. If we respond to our moral intuitions every second of our life, then we will be doing what we as a human being think most important. And then our life, of course, will be meaningful. Now, let me just read through what I've written down here and make sure that I have not missed out anything, okay? Now, this is just the background, the big pictures of what I want to tell you about Kongzi. Now, the second paragraph. Okay. Now, Kongzi believes that he has led a meaningful and worthy life. He once described his life as follows. At 15, I aspired to learning. At 30, I established my stand. At 40, I had no doubt. At 50, I knew the mandate of heaven. At 60, I am no longer disturbed by what I heard. At 70, I could follow the wishes of my heart without doing wrong. Now, so at 70, he becomes a sage. The traditional sage in the traditional Chinese sense, meaning that whatever he wants to do, whatever he wishes, are morally correct. Whatever he wished would be something that could be carried out with no shame. Okay? Now, that would be something remarkable. If you try to carry out whatever you wish, there might be a very high percentage of those that you wouldn't want anybody to know. Probably you wouldn't want anybody to know. And for Kongzi, he's saying that I can actualize whatever I wish, and all these will be good. Now, with this, what he's trying to say, he's saying that there is goodness and badness in life. There is values in life. Human life is not just a blatant fact, okay? It has value. It could be bad and it could be worse, or you could be good, okay? You could be bad or you could be good. And he aspired to learn to lead the good kind of life when he was 15. By 30, he started to know how. Okay, he made his stand. He has his basic, understanding of how to become a good person or lead a valuable life. And at 40, he has no doubt because he tested his hypothesis for like 10 years, and he finally say that, hey, what I think is right is really right. Okay, for 10 years. Okay, he has actualized it and finds it to be really right. And at 50, he knew that it's the mandate from heaven. It's not something that he came up with. It's something that is from heaven. Okay, it's natural. At 60, he's no longer disturbed by what he heard, meaning that he's no longer responds to any criticism that he might heard. Okay, people can criticize him, and he has no response to that because he knows that he is right. Because he knows that he is doing the valuable things, okay? The meaningful things, the important things. Okay, at 70s, he can finally to just do whatever he wishes, and that would be the correct things, and that's what we call stage. So, from this autobiographical descriptions of Kongzi himself, we find that Kongzi actually believes that life has meaning. There is good and bad in it, okay, and it could be improved. If there is no good and bad, improvement is impossible, okay. So there must be good and bad, okay, and he experienced improvement in his life. Now, what did he actually learn? Okay, what does he mean by knowing the mandates of heaven? Now, what was his stand and what he had so much confidence in? It would help to read a couple of passages in the Analects that which concerns learning. Now, Analects is 论语, okay? Now, Kongzi said, at home, the young should honor their parents, and out in the world, respect the elders. They should be prudent and trustworthy. They should love all people and be close to the people who are benevolent. Having done so and have strength left, then they should learn the rights. Now, also Zixia, who is his student, said the similar things. He said to revere virtue instead of beauty, to devote all strength to serving parents, to be willing to die in serving the Lord, to speak with trustworthiness in dealing with friends. Even though it is said this is not to have learned, I say this is. Now, these two passages is about education in Confucianism. What they are trying to say is, the purpose of learning is to become someone who who is concerned about what is the right thing to do at a particular moment, at a particular time. Facing your parents, what should I do? Facing my brother, what should I do? Facing a group of people, what should I do? What kind of people should I be friends with? Okay, when I face my boss, my lord, what kind of attitude should I have? Okay, all these are actually the things that one would ask whenever, in whatever situation he is in. Okay, I'm studying, what kind of attitude should I have? Okay, I'm working, what kind of attitude should I have? What kind of things should I do? What kind of rules should I go by? Okay, so basically what Confucius is saying here is that to learn is to learn to know what to do in any particular moment. Okay? That is, to learn is to learn to be virtuous. And by virtuous, it doesn't mean a person who has a certain virtue. Say, for example, a virtuous person is not a person who is brave or just a person who is diligent. Okay? By virtuous here, Confucius means is a person who values virtues the most. And what is virtues? Virtues would be the kind of things, a virtuous person would be the kind of person who do the right things at the right time. Okay? Who does the right thing at the right time. Facing your parents, honor them. Facing your brother, our elder brother, respect them. Facing your Lord, devote your life to Him. That sort of things. Now, so learning is to learn to behave correctly at any particular moment. Now, what is the correct actions in any particular moment? That is righteousness. Okay? Now, let's go on. Now, so Kongzi's learning is not to learn to become a useful person, like a professional, but learn to become a person who could and would act appropriately at any situation. This is not a matter of just doing the right thing at the right time, but a matter of being the right kind of person. That is learning to be a righteous man or virtuous man. 有德之人. So he said, eating simple food and drinking cold water. Only have my elbow as pillow. This is describing a poor person who only has enough money to buy very simple food and drink cold water, meaning that he would drink any water that he can get his hands on, maybe just water from a puddle. Okay, he has no money to buy any fuel to boil the waters. Okay, so you drink cold water. Only have my elbow as a pillow. He has no money to buy pillows. He only has his own elbow. A person as poor as this would still be happy. So he said happiness could be in these. Unjustly becoming rich and honored to me is just like floating cloud. So justice, getting what you want through the just way, through what you need or you should do, is the most valuable things. So just behaving appropriately at any situation is the key to Kongzi's learning. Now, what is the criteria for being a righteous, or in other words, nobleman, a 君子? Kongzi said, people desire being rich and honored, but I won't achieve these through improper ways. People avoid being poor and vulgar, but I won't escape these through improper ways. A nobleman, a 君子, not complying with 人, this is his moral instinct. Now, this is the key here. 人 is the key concept of Confucianism. The Chinese there is no right Chinese translations for 人. 人 is just a transliteration of these characters. Okay, for those of you who read Chinese, okay, 人 is just the transliterations of 呀. And by this, some Western scholars translate this as benevolent. Okay? like in 忍气, 仁慈, it's wrong. It's wrong, okay? It doesn't mean benevolent, okay? It could have this meaning in a particular situation, but when Confucius here say a nobleman should not deviate from 仁, even for a moment so short as in having a meal, he should be like this in time of crisis and turmoil, meaning that he should always be directed by 仁. Now, if benevolence is his meaning, then what he's saying here is what he was saying here is that man should always be benevolent. But this is not what Confucius would say. In times when you should not be benevolent, you should not be benevolent. Okay? In times you should be, fighting for your right. Then you should be fighting for your right. Okay? Say, for example, in Kongzi himself, he defended his lord, his feudal lord's right in front of others' feudal lord by pulling a sword and ready to fight. And that is not benevolence. That's belligerence. Okay, that is something that means that a person is ready to fight. Okay, and that is not benevolence. Okay, if you need to fight, you fight. You need to kill, you kill. You need to lie, you lie. Okay, so according to Kongzi, there is no abstract principle. There's no abstract moral principle that anyone should follow. Righteousness lies in a particular situation. So this is why no one should, a nobleman not complying with 仁 has nothing to be called noble. You should always, what he's trying to say is, you should always comply to the demand of 仁. Then what is 仁? 仁 is just what I've just said. The moral intuition that demands your moral response, right? You face your noble lord, your king, or your emperor, or your boss, or whatever. You should pay the respect that he deserves, okay? Not necessarily bow down and kowtow, that sort of thing, but you do need to pay the respect that he deserves. And when you face your juniors, your fellow students, okay, then you have to take care of them. This is something that you're responsible for, okay? Now, so then what Kongzi is saying here is that humans are born with this natural ability, that is to judge what one should do in any particular situations. So for Kongzi, we do not need an abstract moral principle to follow. We need to have a clear conscience. We need to have we need to be a nobleman. We need to train ourselves, to develop ourselves to a point that we listen to our conscience all the time, instead of listening to our desire. We have our desire, we also have our conscience. Our conscience would be 仁, would be the moral instinct. Now, the moral instinct is the things that you find most important as a human. So if you could listen to or comply to your moral instinct, then you will be doing what you think is most important as a human being all the time. And this is what makes you noble. See? This is exactly here. Those who do not comply with 仁, a nobleman should not deviate from 仁, even for a moment so short as in finishing a meal. So he's saying that any minute, all the time, you want to be a noble person, you want to live with certain nobility or values. You don't need to be born in a noble family. You don't need to be a rich person. You don't need to have a degree. You do not need other people to look up to you. All you need to do is to comply to the demands of your own moral judgment all the time. Okay? Now, I think I've made that clear. Okay, it's all right here. Okay? Now, the concept of Ren is the core idea of Confucianism. Although usually translated as commiseration or compassion, its meaning is very difficult to grasp. We may understand Ren as the deepest natural response of a human being facing any given situation. By deepest, I mean it is innate, born with, not result of education or socializations. Very difficult or even impossible to erase, but very easy to neglect. This is interesting. It's always there, but you can ignore it. Okay? Your conscience is always there, but you can ignore it. And Confucius is asking you not to ignore it. It's always there. You just need to pay attention to it. So if you complain about being bored, if you complain about, your life is meaningless, what you think is important is already there. You just need to pay attention to it. Okay? So, such response is always there. As long as one is a conscious human, he would have such response, for it is the response of his nature as a human, i.e. human nature. Just that a lot of time the response are neglected because we are concentrating on doing things that concerns our interest or desire more than what your conscience has asked you to do. So the response could be felt once a person is not as self-regarding, or the response is stronger than one's concentration on one's own interest. This is why the Chinese character for Ren literally means two people. Okay? This is people, this is two. Ren is two people, not self-regarding, regard others. Okay? Don't just look at yourself. Okay? Now, by self here means interest. Okay? Now, see, this actually echoes with what Russell has said, right? Remember when we talk about Russell, Bertrand Russell, he, as a physicalist, do not believe in God. He believes that everything that exists in the world are just matters, just materials. There is no value in the natural world. But at the same time, he will say that if you are not so self-regarding, when you are not so selfish, you will be able to perceive the values in the world, right? The beauty of natures, the goodness of comradeship. Okay, you will only see that when you are not so selfish. Now, the interesting thing is they might echo each other, but there is a what do you call that? Theoretical difference. For Russell, he's saying that the value is outside, right? The value is outside. Remember what we talked about it. The beauty is outside. The beauty is in nature. Okay? The goodness is in the relationship. I will have to be less selfish to detect them. Okay, but they are outside. If I'm not lucky enough or fortunate enough to face this nature, I will not be able to see the beauty. If I do not have the fortunes to meet with really nice people, our comrade, I would not see the goodness in human being as well. So whether or not I experience these values, which is outside of me, it all depends on my luck, on my fortune. If I do not have the fortune, if I'm so unfortunate, if I'm not like Russell, who is a middle-class British man who has a very good education, that he learned to do mathematics so that he can, even if he has no chance of looking at the nature, even if he has no chance of meeting really nice people, he can still do calculus on his own, right? But not every one of us know how to do calculus and enjoy doing calculus. Remember that? The truth, the cold truth in mathematics. If you are not so selfish, you'll be able to detect it when you do your math. Okay. Now, for Russell, these are all outside. But for Confucius, no. These are inside. This is something that comes out of you. You as a human being always responds to your environment in a moral way. You make judgment all the time. Even if you are sick and paralyzed in the hospital, okay, cannot take care of yourself, you can still make moral judgment of this situation. Should I or should I not be lying down here? Should I just die and save the society some money, some resources? Should I do that? You can still make moral judgment and react to it. You can still make moral judgment on how the nurse is treating you and other patients, and make response to that. So the value, that is the moral demand coming from your nature, 人, is always there. That is, there's always something that you as a human finds important to react to any moment of your life. You just need to find that out and react to it and respond to it. Okay? Now, this is why孔子was said, is 人 far away? 人遠乎哉? Is 人 far away? He said, of course not. I wish to have the 人, this 人 will come. 人 will come as long as I wish for it. The only reason he can say that is because 人 is your human nature. You respond. As long as you are a human being, you will respond with this 人. You may say, well, I don't feel it. Well, there's a lot of things in your mind that you do not feel. Our consciousness is a funny thing. Look into your consciousness. You will find that there are lots of information. There are lots of things going on. But you might not realize. You might not, you might not pay attention to every one of them. For example, do you feel the weight of your clothes that is pressing on your shoulder? Do you feel your clothes pressing on your shoulder? Do you feel anything? Do you feel the clothes that you wear? Okay, good. You feel it. A lot of people say, I don't. Well, that would be funny. If you do not feel your clothes, if there is either you have no, nerve, or your clothes has no mass. Well, if your clothes has mass, then it has some weight on earth. Okay, and also if you have some nerve, then you will feel the cloth, no matter how light it is. You always feel it. But have you noticed it? Have you always noticed it? No. When you are paying attention to my lectures, if you are, then you may not be paying attention to the weight on your shoulder or the feeling of your feet. There are lots of feelings that is going on in your consciousness. We select those we need to pay attention to. It's our choice. We keep selecting those we need to pay attention to. Okay? And we never pay attention to our conscience, even though it keeps on functioning. We rarely ever pay attention to that, but it does. Sometimes it's stronger, sometimes it's weaker, but it always does. This is why when Mengzi make that example, when the little kid about to fall into a well, and that is an example that will usually cause strong reactions. But still, there could be some people whose conscience or whose strength is so dulled, so buried under all the interests that he is, too busy chasing after. He would feel nothing. But if he paid attention to his own conscience, he would be able to see. Okay? Now, so this is all about where you put your attention. It's always there. It's always there. Okay? So if you want to lead a meaningful life, pay attention to what you as a human being is saying to yourself all the time. Okay? Now, the concept of 人 I think I covered this Okay. Now, human nature continuously responds to our environment. It never ceases to operate. And it is the self that is not socially constructed. It is the true self that demands to be actualized in every second of our life. Do according to such demand means actualizing the deepest potential as a human being, not the potential as an individual, but as a human being. Actualizing the potential as a socially constructed individual is important and the major source of meaning of our life. Both Nietzsche and孔子would agree. Now, this is something that I've just mentioned, right? Okay? So it is important to actualize the potential as a social constructed individual. If you'd like to ski, okay, it's important that you actualize that as well. But if the environment wouldn't let you, that doesn't mean that your life will therefore have no meaning. You will always be a human, okay? However, when the potential as an individual is in conflict with the potential as a human being,孔子would suggest denying the actualizations of the potential as an individual and give way to the potential as a human being. And there are two reasons for this. Only if you do that could one be in peace with oneself. The potential as an individual, constructed or innate, are usually contingent. For instance, one may have the potentials to win the Olympic game in a very short period of his life. Yeah, this is the example I've just made, right? What seems to be very rewarding at a particular moment might not be so in a year or two. But the remorse, the deep self-betrayal, the remorse that comes from the self-betrayal, the self-denial of violating the demand of one's human nature will always be there. 內疚係唔會消失嘅。The usual solution that we employ is to pretend that it was over and no longer important. Say, for example, you have done something really wrong, that you do not want to mention it again. But it might, pop up every once in a while when you were about to go to sleep. Okay? And then pop up, oh gee, I took my brother's candies away when I was like 12. I shouldn't have done that, but I was so hungry and I ate him. And I just took it away and let him cry like crazy. Okay? I shouldn't have done that. I have remorse. But hey, it has been 10 years. What should I do? Should I go over to his room and apologize to him? Okay? No, I think he forgot it already. Nobody mention this. Let's just forget about this. Let's just push it down into our subconscious and never let it show itself again. And let's never pay attention to it again. This is how we usually deal with it, right? This is how because you do not want to face it again. Sometimes it's just, you're past the moment, okay? You just cannot, you do not have a chance to redeem yourself or make things right. Or worst of all, if you have done something wrong to your parents, say for example, then you regret saying so or doing so, and they pass away before you make things right, you will never have a chance to make things right. It would always come back to haunt you. Now, and what do? We just suppress it as if it never happened. This is how we survive, right? But this will just come back. The usual solution that we employ is to pretend that it was over and no longer important. And that is what the existentialists termed bad faith. Okay? Means it's called, bad faith. You yourself know from the bottom of your heart it is important. It's something that you as a human being think is important. But you just deny that because you have no chance of making it right. Again, you just deny that. Okay, 司马牛 as Kongzi's student once asked about noblemen, about being a nobleman. Kongzi said, the nobleman is without worry, without fear. Sima Niu then asked, can a man be considered noble just because he's without worry, without fear? Yeah, that seems to be easy, right? You could be without worry and fear because you are stupid. Okay, you don't know the danger. You do not see things that you need to worry about. So you could be dumb and stupid and have no fear and worry. So then that's why he asked the questions. And Kongzi said, when upon self-examination, there is no self-recriminations, 內疚, self-recriminations. Why would there be worry? why would there be fear? So Kongzi believes the only thing that one should be worried about is whether or not you have denied yourself, whether or not you have betrayed the deepest self. Okay, that is the only thing that you should be worried about. Other things like whether or not you have enough to eat or dress or live in is something outside. You can always get by. Okay, but that could be fixed. There are ways to deal with those things. But once you have defiled yourself, you have betrayed yourself, the deepest self, you might not be able to, correct it again. Now, so this is why you have to go by the demand of your natures. The second reason is, fail to fully actualize one's human nature would lead to an insurmountable void in one's life. Now, this is interesting. This is more, addressing our issues here. Now, this void manifested as boredom in our everyday life. Have you ever been so bored that nothing seems interesting, nothing matters? And the problem is that you have a gut feeling that there should be. This is what we call void. Now, void, 空虛, is not just have nothing. Void is nothing when you expect something. Say, for example, you have made an appointment with a friend. You guys say you are going to meet at a certain place, say in the library at 5 o'clock. You get to the place and he isn't there. That will be a big void of not having him there. But if you just pass by the point without expecting anyone there, you wouldn't notice he not being there. See? He not being there is the void that you experience. So void is not just something that is not there. It's when you expect something to be there and it's not there. Okay? Now, human beings is a kind of being that always expect their lives to be meaningful. And they cannot find the meaning. And it is this that causes the void. Say, if there's a being, say any animal, say a dog, who do not think his life should have any meaning, then it would be okay if his life is meaningless. There would be no void in his life. But it is just because that this is our human nature. We need to know the meaning, the importance, the values of our environment. Is it important for me to pay attention? Is it important for me to be polite? Is it important for me to pay respect to a certain person? I need to know. It's not something that has no importance. I need to know. Now, it's not something trivial. Okay, we just need to know. So, the void that we experience every day, the boredom that we experience every day, comes from the fact that we expect our life to be meaningful. But just that we do not know what's the meaning of it. Okay? Now, that is the void. Now, have you ever... Okay. So this is not a psychological need which could be filled with some sort of meaningful activities. This is deprivations of human nature. Okay? This is when your human nature is not being respected, it's not being taken care of. This is your human nature saying to you, hey, you should lead this kind of life, but you ignore it. Okay? You bury it. Okay? You buried it because it's too painful to deal with and too difficult to deal with sometimes. So we just bury it. We just pay attention and concentrate and focus on our success and focus on our daily routine. Okay? So, the unbearable lightness of the void is usually sedated by material means. So you could, go see a movie. Okay? So preoccupy yourself with entertainment so that you feel better for a while. Okay? But it does work in many instances. Just that the excitement and enjoyment brought through physical means cannot be sustained without sufficient fun. You have to be rich. And even with the sufficient fun, one would realize that the void as soon as the physical excitement ceases. This is why孔子would say, those who are not Ren, that means those who has not actualized his potential as a human being, okay, and responds to it appropriately every moment in his life, he will be bored. His existence will have no weight. His existence will be so light that he finds it not worthwhile to exist. So those who are not Ren cannot long endure poverty because he would need, materials. He would need physical excitement. He will have to pay for entertainment. If he is poor, he cannot pay for it. So those who are not Ren cannot long endure poverty. And they cannot long be happy. In this context, mean rich. And they cannot be rich as well. Because if you are poor and find life meaningless, you still have one hope in your life. You will say to yourself, hey, I'm poor. I need entertainment. I need my life to be filled with all sorts of material goods. If I'm rich, then my problem will be gone. So for a poor person, he still has one hope in life, that is getting rich. Like most of us, we think, one day if I ever get rich, all the problems that I'm facing will be gone. But imagine the person who is already rich, and he's still bored, and he still finds his life meaningless. He's still not Ren. He still has not actualized his potential as a human being. He's just trying to, sedate himself with all this entertainment, all this enjoyment. He eventually got even more, bored. He will become his existence will become absolutely meaningless. So it's not a matter of whether or not you are rich or poor. It's whether or not you have actualized your potential as a human being. Those who are Ren find anchor in them. That is, those who actualize his potential as a human being, anchor his life in exactly this. Those who are wise profit from them. Those who are wise get their profits from actualizing his potential as a human being. Okay. Now, this is something that I have discussed with students in a lot of different classes. When human beings are concentrating on pursuing his interests every day, they tend to neglect his true nature. Okay, he just responds to or react to the demands from the society, the demand from their parents, the demands from his peer, okay, and especially the demands from his boss, okay, his true boss. And he would be too busy and too preoccupied in doing that and neglected the true self, okay. And by true self, he doesn't mean the Nietzschean self. He's referring to the self that is what we call human nature. Now, what if we don't? We keep putting it off. We keep burying it. Then our life getting even more meaningless. The void became bigger and bigger, until a point that you have to do something drastic in your life in order to make your life seems to be a bit more meaningful. Say, for example, buying something really expensive. making a decision whether or not to buy that bag, that handbag, that Gucci, Gucci, okay, the Gucci handbag, okay, or Fan whatever handbag. One day I just walked by the store, the Milan store on the street, close to the university. To my surprise, I didn't know it was that expensive. I thought it was about $20,000 for a bag. I think that is already ridiculous. But I looked at one of the price tag, and I counted to zero, and it is not 20,000. It's 200,000. That bag is $200,000. That was like, I was like, $200,000 for a used handbag? You must be kidding me. I don't know how much it will go for a new one. Imagine you standing there, deciding whether or not to spend $200,000 on a bag. That is an important decision, right? If you have made a wrong decision on buying that bag, you will end up with a bag that you do not like so much, but you lost $200,000. So that is a big decision. And so you will be doing this existential decision. To be or not to be. To buy or not to buy. This is a big question. This matters. This question, the answer to these questions matters. Because what really matters to us, we neglect them. We bury them. Those we really find important, we cannot deal with. It's too difficult and too painful to deal with. So we bury them. And then we have to do something that we pretend to be important, like buying a bag. To make our life, sort of meaningful. Sort of meaningful. And this is how, what do you call that? Common call. Not workaholic, but shopaholic. This is what shopaholics comes about. Shopaholic is not someone who just buy a lot. You cannot become a shopaholic just buying chocolate. Okay, you buy 10,000, not 10,000, you buy 1,000 bags of M&Ms. Yeah, that's kind of crazy, but it's not shopaholic. It's cheap, okay? It doesn't really hurt you. But if you buy a bag with $200,000, that causes you, okay? That hurts you. You need to be hurt, okay? Because you need to know that this decision is important. Because there's nothing important in your life anymore. You have to create an importance in your life by doing this. So you were deciding to be or not to be, to buy or not to buy. And then with a leap of faith, you said, I'll buy it. With no reason. Wow, this causes your adrenaline to really burst out. And then you feel really excited. And then you give them your credit card. And when they were processing your credit card, you feel all this excitement of buying something really important. As if you are doing something really important. But after that, everything goes downhill. The excitement just gone. The excitement just gone. And you will end up with a bag that you will not use. You would not use a $20,000 bag on a daily basis, would you? Okay, you just get it home, put it on the shelf, and wait for it to be dusted. Okay? And one day, when you were trying to clean out your home, you say, oh, this is a bag I spent $200,000 on. Yeah, I'm not going to use it anyway. Why don't I just sell it and get the money back? So that you sell it to the Milan shop for the money. Do you know what? This is a real story. The owner of Milan shop started out with 3 of these bags. He was at the edge of bankruptcy. His wife just left him. He has nothing. He was at the bottom of his life. And he was searching for things to sell so that he can have his next meal. So then he finds 3 bags that his ex-wife left, and which is kind of expensive. So then he took those 3 bags onto the street, put it on the pavement, and asked people to buy it. And he sold it for a good price. And he was shocked. Whoa, this bag worth money. So then he started his business of collecting old bags and selling and reselling these old bags. From that day on until he becomes a 上市公司, I don't know how to say that in English, okay? Become a 上市公司, it was 1 year. It was 1 year. 1 year. That reflected how much void we have in our society. How bored the women are. Well, sometimes men do. But how meaningless our life is in our society. Okay? If you want Confucius, diagnosis to this problem, his diagnosis would be this: because we have not faced up to the truly important issues in our life. What are the truly important issues? The issues that is raised by your own nature, by your own self. Okay? Now, so, with this as a background, how would Confucius, or how would Kongzi, answer the 2 questions on life and death that we have posted at the beginning of the semester? The first question is, on the despair caused by death, that is, if there is an end to our life, when there is no life after death, everything ends with your death, okay, then our life will probably be a process going toward impossibility. We're going toward a stage where there is no more possibility. That is a process going toward hopelessness, and therefore this is a process going toward despair, right? This is something that we have mentioned, right? Okay, in order for us to live, we need to know that we have a future. In order for us to live meaningfully, we need to know that things will change. We need to know that there is a better possibility tomorrow. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to eat the canteen food you are going to eat later. Okay, why do I still have to suffer the canteen food in PolyU? It's because that we think one day I will eat better food. Okay, but if I tell you no, PolyU canteen food is all you have to eat for the rest of your life. You'll probably commit suicide tonight, okay? The only reasons we think we should go forward is because we think there is a better tomorrow. There's a possibility that it's going to change. Things are going to change. But if I tell you no, possibility is just getting fewer and fewer. Until to a point that you face no possibility. Death is a point there is no possibility. No possibility, no hope. So death is hopelessness. Our life is just a process toward hopelessness, if you look at it that way. Now, how would Confucius answer that question without appealing to a transcendental being like God or an afterlife? He would say, the meaning and value of life is the immediate realizations of human nature. It has nothing to do with achievement or reaching any life goal. So I do not need to know that I have a future. I do not need to know that I'm working toward any goal. Okay? Whose value itself is, of course, in doubt. Okay, I can set whatever goals I in the future. But how will I know that goal is worth pursuing after? Okay, if I do not have a sound criteria for meaning and values to begin with. So then, it has nothing to do with the achievement or reaching. It has nothing to do with achievement or reaching any life goal. Therefore, one could live meaningfully until the end of one's life. All he needs to do is to respond to the immediate, demand of your conscience. Having a definite end may reduce one's possibility, but never the hope of leading a meaningful existence. Okay, this should be meaningful existence. Okay. Now see, so yeah, there's an end to life. There might be nothing afterward. There might be no life after death. Okay, that is it. But meaning to Confucius has never been achieving any goal. Meaning to Confucius has never been hope or possibilities in the futures. Meaning is always here and now. Meaning is always your present existential response to your own nature. Okay? Now, so this is how he would, respond to that question. So of course, you may or may not, agree with him, and that's something that we could, talk about. And this is something that you may think about when we discuss the issues of, say, euthanasia. If a person has no hope of curing a disease, he's suffering day in and day out, would he still have any reasons to keep on living? Okay. For Confucius, he would. No matter how much you suffer at this particular moment, you can still make your life worthwhile by actualizing what your conscience is asking you to do. Okay. After all, it's not the comfort, it's not the enjoyment, it's not the entertainment that is going to make your life, meaningful. It's whether or not you are responding appropriately to your own, conscience. Okay. Now this is one. This is one of the answer. The other answer would be whether or not what if there is a life after death? Are you ready for the life after death?孔子, of course, has his answers to that as well. On the fear of uncertainty of the life after death, even though no one could be certain of what would happen after death,孔子believes that the way of acquiring a meaningful existence would be the same. This is why孔子said, if you do not know how to live, you know nothing about death. 未知生，焉知死? If you know how to live, if you know how to live a meaningful life, it's the same thing. Actualize your potentials as a human being, just in another world. Okay? As long as you are a human being, as long as you think this nature of yours is eternal, it's unchanging, it's not something contingent, it's not something that is constructed by society, then you still have it after you die. Okay? It's not something contingent. So,孔子believed that the way of acquiring a meaningful existence would be the same. If there were powerful spiritual beings, like gods or ghosts, that we need to deal with after death, that is, once you die, some kind of, spirit comes to you and say he wants to torture you for whatever reasons. We would deal with them as we deal with powerful human beings in this world. Hey, in this world, we have to overcome we have to deal with the powers that we cannot overcome anyway. The government is sometimes harsh to us. Okay, there are bullies in the world that treat us badly. We still deal with them the same way we deal with the spirit. This is to pay respect and stay away. You respect them and stay away. Don't try to fight them. If you can't fight them, don't fight them. But you know how to generate values from within. You do not need to, befriend this spirit or befriend the government in order to lead a meaningful life. Okay? You may need to befriend them in order to lead a prosperous life. Okay? You may need them for prosperity, but you do not need them for meaningfulness. Okay? Now, this is all I want to talk about today. Okay? I would like to end this earlier so that you can go home earlier. I know the traffic is difficult. Okay, so I would like to end everything sooner, as soon as we can. Okay, let's take a break and let's come back at 5:30. Okay, let's come back at 5:30 for group A. Okay.